Welcome back to New Day. President Obama says Republicans in Congress have left him no choice because they've refused to act on the nation's broken immigration system for years. So he is going to fix it for them, he says, and he's going to outline changes in a big speech tonight that we'll cover here on CNN, of course. And he says he's going to accomplish what he needs to do by executive action. Now, those words ring with very, very ugly intentions to congressional Republicans. They say it is a political declaration of war. Let's discuss with people from both sides of the aisle. We have Sean Duffy, Republican from Wisconsin and a member of the House Budget Committee. That will be key. Henry Cuellar, Democrat from Texas, and a member of the House Appropriations Committee. That will also be key. Let's look at the polls, gentlemen. Let's look at the polls here, okay? First poll here. This is where the American people are on this issue. Chance for legal status, 57%. Be deported, 39%. Congressman Duffy, why isn't it as simple as that, putting the pressure on you all in Congress to do something about this so the president does not have to?
Yeah, first of all, I think we should do something. I think the Congress should act. I'm one who supports immigration reform, but in a step-by-step approach. But this issue has been on the table, and Congress hasn't acted. And as you know, we just had a historic House majority elected in a couple weeks ago, and we just got control of the Senate. So the American people, though I agree with your poll, want immigration reform done. They don't want it done by executive action. And the president, he's creating arbitrary timelines. First of all, he set it over the summer. Then he moved it to September. Then he moved it to after the election. The president should wait. Give the new Congress enough time to work its will, see if we can come up with a bill. But if he goes this way, we're going to set this new Congress off on the wrong foot. I think it's going to tear the country apart at the seams. And as a president who's come and told the American people that he's going to be a uniter, all of his actions are tearing the country apart.
Congressman Cuellar, I'm going to get to you in a second because there are poll numbers that you need to think about on your side of the aisle that aren't great. But let me just stay with you for a second, Representative Duffy. That reeks of brinkmanship to me. What do you mean, give us some time? You've had years to do this. Now, you can blame the president for that. He hasn't gotten anything done either. But you've had more than enough time. The Senate passed a bill. Boehner won't even hold an up-down vote on this. You're dragging your feet, and it's going to cost families a lot of pain. Are you worried about that?
So, again, I support immigration reform.
But you haven't done it.
That's right, but guess what? That's the prerogative of the House of Representatives. I agree that we haven't worked, but that you think that an executive hasn't been angry at the Congress, it goes back to our very founding. True. We have three co-equal branches of government. The House and the Senate are one of those co-equal branches. So if the president doesn't agree with us, that doesn't mean that he now has the authority to, quote, act on his own.
Well, he may have the authority. He may have the legal authority. I think that's become a little bit of a specious argument, but politically, it could be a wrong move. Let me say why. Go ahead.
Professor Obama disagrees. He says he doesn't have the authority. He said he would have to be a king or an emperor to take this move. So even the president in prior statements agrees he doesn't have the authority to take this action.
Many legal experts
now he's doing it anyway.
Say it's not about the law, but it could very well be bad politics. Let's put up the other poll about how people feel about the president taking executive action, please. There it is. Question is very simple. 38 approve, 48 disapprove, 14 not sure, no opinion. We can chalk that up to the disaffection you guys are all feeding down there in D.C. So we come to you, Representative Cuellar. Why is he doing this when people don't want him to do this, with the people he needs to work with on the Republican side of the aisle saying, if you do this, all bets are off, when he's had plenty of time to do something and hasn't gotten anything done?
Well, you're right about both polls. You know, people do support immigration reform, but they rather have the president work with the U.S. Congress. Representative Duffy and I can work together. We can do it together. We can do a bipartisan bill, just like President Ronald Reagan and the Democrats did in 1986. The issue is, you know, we've been waiting. You know, since the time I've been in Congress, our Republican friends said, hey, let's build a fence. We built the wall down there at the border. I didn't like it, but it was done. They said double the number of Border Patrol. We doubled the number of Border Patrol. They said deport more people. President Obama deported more people in 4 years than President Bush did in 8 years. So we've done that, and I think we need to do immigration reform. I prefer a bipartisan approach. But if the president acts, let's see what he puts there, and I can certainly support a lot of the things that he's putting there.
But if he does, so you're saying you support the president doing it, even though if he does this, it may blow up any chance of you getting a bipartisan bill. Are you getting hoisted on your own petard, to summon an old phrase, where that this is going to be used as a device to, you know, do something to the other side, but it's going to wind up hurting you even more?
Look, the executive order, and again, I prefer legislative action, bipartisan, but the executive order on immigration has been used since, I believe, 1956. Dwight Eisenhower used it. The last 2 out of the 3 Republican presidents, Ronald Reagan, Bush 1, used the executive order on immigration. George Bush 2, the son, which I worked very closely when he was governor, supported immigration reform. So the executive action can be passed. The next president, he or she, can always change it if they want to do that. Or Congress, just like they did with Ronald Reagan, can always come back after an executive order and pass a bipartisan approach on immigration. I want to see a bipartisan approach.
And Congressman Duffy, you say the same thing. You want the same thing. And let's be clear, I'm not blaming you for the problem. I know what your record is. I know you've been pushing for change, but it's not getting done, and you have to answer for your brothers and sisters. They're saying if this happens, maybe there's a shutdown. That's in the wind now. Maybe we'll impeach him. Why so extreme all the time in response to things that you admit are politics?
First of all, it's not extreme for the president to act outside the authority that's given to him as the executive and not come to the people's house, but then come to the people's house and say, we want you to fund our executive action. I got to tell you what, if he asks for money for the executive action, we in the House aren't going to give it to him. And if he chooses to shut the government down because of that, that's his prerogative.
He wouldn't be choosing to shut the government down. That would be your choice.
No, well, we're not going to listen. We're not going to fund this executive action. But I think what's important is what happens to the Hispanic community. They're going to be coaxed out of the shadows with this executive action. But this isn't a long-term solution for them. It could be overturned by another president. This could actually be overturned by the courts. And so then they've exposed themselves when they come out of the shadows to potential future deportation because they've exposed the fact that they're not here with documentation. The best way to do it for the Hispanic community is to do it right, to do it in a bipartisan fashion through the House, through the Senate, with the president, that actually changes the law for the long run, which helps people, gives them certainty as they move forward as potentially new legal status citizens.
You would get the big amen from everybody if there were no history on this issue. You guys have failed to do that. These families hang in the balance, and you know a lot of them are paying the price.
But the president said this was a priority when he was elected. He had 2 years with the Democrat-controlled Senate and House, and he did nothing. He's had 4 years to do this executive action. He could have done it over the summer. This reeks of politics. The president waited till after the election because he knew the American people didn't agree with him on the executive action front. We have a new Congress. We have new members. We have new senators. Why would the president do this right now before the new Congress is sworn in? Give it time. Let it breathe. Let people talk about it. Let's engage in the conversation. Henry and I think, could come up, we'll probably agree on 90% of what immigration reform should look like. Give us that space to do it. But with this executive action, there's no space. He's going to blow the whole conversation up and not allow any room for bipartisanship.
Well, let's see if there's a date condition put on the executive order. I mean, that's up to the president's discretion as well. It doesn't have to take effect right now. It could give you that time and space. But again, it's obviously an incendiary act. I think, fellas, we have to leave it there for now. The best sign I see for any progress is that you're actually wearing the tie colors of the other party. So maybe that's the best thing we got going into it right now. But we'll all be watching tonight, and I appreciate the candor on the issue. Thank you very much, Congressman.
Thank you so much.
All right, again, the big address is tonight. We really have to hear what the president